Welcome to the Catholic Life Coach Podcast. My name is Carla Fitz. I'm a certified life coach, wife, and mom of two beautiful little girls and a handsome little boy. My hope for this podcast is to support and empower other Catholic women to live their most authentic life, to share life coaching tools from a Catholic perspective in order to help you live a more fulfilling and aligned life filled with peace, joy, and abundance. Let's get started. Hello, my loves, and welcome to this episode. In this episode, I am beyond excited because I have a dear friend coming on with me. Her name is Nicky Bevan. She's my love, my friend. I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome.
Thank
This is going to
you.
be so fun. Please, Nicky,
It's
share
exciting.
who you are and tell us about you.
Yes, and I'm going to give you the clean version of who I am because, as Carla knows, I sometimes have a bit of a potty mouth, but I'm not going to bring that into this space today. So, thank you for inviting me. I am Nicky Bevan. I class myself as the very loving, absolutely no BS life coach for working mums who love their job. She fiercely loves her children, but she isn't really enjoying either because of this relentless kind of hamster wheel she feels she's on overwhelm and mum guilt and just feeling exhausted trying to keep everybody happy all of the time. She's snapping at her kids and then she's beating herself up for snapping at her kids because that's not who she wants to be. Um, so yes, I just help her with practical time management skills, but so much more importantly, that mind, emotional, and spiritual connection that we have in us. That's what I do.
I love it. I love it. And I think there's so many of us that are in this situation where we have so much love for our children that
Mm,
then we want to give them our very best. But when there's so much expectation in our minds, then we just judge ourselves and beat ourselves up. Like I cannot
yeah,
tell you how much I relate to this. So I love it. And I love that you support moms. It's brilliant.
yeah.
I'm so excited to have you on because my idea, so this month of March, has been a focus on what it is to be a life coach, what we do inside of life coaching. And for you listeners, Nikki it was certified within the life coach school. I almost said the Catholic Life Coach School. I'm very used to
Mhm.
my title. And we got certified by the same school, and we met through our coach, Jamie, whom you've heard me talk way too many times. Um, and we became friends through there, but I wanted to have her on because she is a brilliant coach. And I thought it would be so good to talk about what it is we do and what things we have in common. But also, I would love to hear from you how life coaching has shifted your life.
Mm.
Like, give us a little bit of what your life was beforehand and now, and why this is so important. Too many questions. We'll go through them, but let's
Yeah.
just go from there.
Okay. So I think I don't even know if you know my background of how I got into
I don't
coaching.
think
I
so,
don't
no.
think you know my story, do you? So I have always been a positive person in the sense that I was very used to people saying to me, "How are you always happy?" And "Oh, Nikki, you're always happy." And I kind of knew I always had a choice. But because no one seemed to agree with me, I thought this must just be me.
Mm.
So things like, when it's raining, especially here in England, everyone's like, "Oh, isn't it miserable?" And I was like, "Well, no, I just put on my wellies and go and stomp in puddles. Aren't I lucky that I've got a warm car to get to or a warm house to get to?" And but no one seemed to agree with me. And um or I wasn't being realistic. I would get, "Oh
Mm.
yeah, but Nikki, we're being realistic.
Yeah.
We're worrying and we're being realistic." And I'm like, I don't really think you are. And so I had this, um, yeah, I always kind of had this view, although I never was able to articulate it like how I know to articulate it now. But when I came across life coaching, two of the directors of the business that I was working with at that time had been on a Tony Robbins retreat, and they came back, as you would imagine, absolutely buzzing from this retreat. And they were like, "Right, we want to bring this energy into the business." And they came to me and said, like, "Nikki, you're the type of person that would be brilliant at it. We're going to do energy week. We're going to do these workshops, and will you help us coordinate it? And I was like, absolutely. So off we went coordinating this energy week. And it was an incredible week of like, it started off 9 o'clock on a Monday morning with a samba band, and it was amazing. And the workshops were brilliant. But as the week progressed, I was getting more and more frustrated. Um, and I had this memory of being sat in front of the careers advisor when I was 15. My grades weren't good at school. I'm not academic. But I can remember saying to the careers advisor, I really want to help people find their way. I don't want to tell
Mm.
them where they've got to go, but I want to help them find their way. And she sort of screwed her face up and looked at me and went, oh, go and do hairdressing. Which I did, didn't really enjoy it. But so I was reminded of this energy and I was getting more and more frustrated. And on the Thursday, this woman called it a listening post, and you could book in 20 minutes and talk to her about anything. And I've always loved my job. I've always loved working. I really loved earning money. And so I was like, no, I'm good. Like my life's fine. But that Thursday morning I saw her and I was like, no, I need to come and talk to you. And I sat in front of her and I just bawled my eyes out because I um I said to her, I'm just getting more and more frustrated. I remember this conversation with the careers advisor. And I said, and I know it makes me sound really kooky, but I've got this energy that's trying to burst out of my arms and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to do with it, but it's so much more than what I'm doing now.
Mm.
And so she said, well, have you ever heard of life coaching? And I was like, never heard of life coaching. So she said, well, that's what I am. I'm a life coach. I just question people and I help them find their way. So I was like,
Mm.
okay. So I came out of that, Googled life coaching, found the Life Coach Schools podcast, and you've probably told your listeners this in I can remember Brooke saying to me in that first episode, life gives us circumstances that we have no control over. And they're completely neutral until our brain gets involved and our brain gives us thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings drive our actions, and we get a result. And I was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, this is actually a thing. This is a thing. This
Yeah.
is this is a job. And so I came home and I came absolutely buzzing. And I said to my husband, I'm going to be a life coach. And he's like, what the actual beep? I'm like, no. So at that point in our family life, we were completely in the middle of renovating our house. So what is now my office was a temporary kitchen. I had a little camping stove. I had a microwave. We had our camping table set up next to the double bed in our bedroom. The boys' room was fine, but we were washing up in the bath. And we were like that for a whole year. We were running out of money. Builders weren't coming back to us. Things were going wrong. My husband was stressed at work and now also stressed at home. And I was happy. I'm like, this is not a problem. He's like, how are you okay with this? Is not okay. I was like, but it is, isn't it? Because there are people in the world that would literally risk their
Mhm.
lives and their children's lives to live exactly how we're living. This is not a problem. It's your thoughts about it. He did not agree. So we had a number of challenging conversations about
Yeah.
it. And then he went into work one day and said to a work colleague, do you realize if you just changed your thoughts about that, you would feel differently? And then he was like, oh my gosh, this is true. And he had such a shift. He came home and he said, you have to do it. So he's now also a life coach. So I think that really, very unconsensually, he was my first client above
Mm.
myself because I used to believe I was pathetic. I used to believe
Yeah.
I wasn't clever enough. I was definitely useless. And I just don't have those beliefs about myself anymore because I realize we have a choice.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I got into life coaching, and it
Amazing.
just totally is was the job for me. And then more recently, um, having opened up to God's support,
Yeah.
the other time I sat and sobbed was because I've never really classed myself as religious. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but
No, it's
I
fine.
never classed myself as religious. And then um, my friend was singing in church and she said, well, just come and listen.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And it was one of the most comfortable things I've ever done. But again, I sat there and I was like, right, I'm going to open myself up to the unseen love and support that is available to us from God.
Yeah.
And that was the second time I sat and just bawled my eyes out because I realized this is nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
This is God's plan. And if I am willing to trust and release to that plan, it will all happen. And since then, it feels like my business has just kind of exploded in the best way.
Isn't it just amazing? Because, when I first met you, that was not happening for you yet. And I
Mm,
just had this, because I'm very vocal when it comes to my faith, and I'm very like, talking about God and stuff like that. And I just had this sense of like, you were so filled with joy and love that it just makes sense that you would come to this. And I'm just
mm,
so excited for you. And I love it because I think it's that realization. I had kind of the same realization. I'm gonna go backwards with my business, because when I was trying to have a grip on my business
mm,
and have control on what I was creating and how it was being created, I left God very out of it. Like, I was just very like, even though I'm Catholic, always have been Catholic,
mm,
like I was just like, well, I don't think God really wants to be a part of this thing. And I don't know how this relates. And then I remember having that moment in Holy Hour, sitting in front of the Eucharist. And then I was just like, what popped in my head was, you've never asked me to be
mm.
a part of this journey. You've never asked me to bless your business. And I remember sobbing in there,
Yeah.
thinking, oh my goodness, you're right. Like, I have never actually asked you to bless this, to provide through this, go create this business with me. And since
Mm,
then, my business baked up, and I opened up to the feeling of being abundant now, and co-creating with him rather than me so attached to how it needs to be created and by when. Like, when we let him lead, it's just such a completely
mm,
different experience.
mm.
But I actually want to go back because your story reminds me a lot of how I came to life coaching. I don't know if I shared this with you. Um, but I was in a weight loss. I found my coach, my very first coach, through weight loss. And I was in real estate because my original goal was to work from home and have flexibility. And I
Mm.
knew that real estate wasn't it, but it was the right next step. And through there is how I found Brooke. And I
Yeah.
remember walking in my neighborhood, and I just happened to listen to the podcast. I think it was my real estate friend who sent me the episode of Are You Living Your Best Life?
Mm,
And I remember sobbing, listening to her, thinking, I am not living my best life. I was doing the exact same thing. Like, I am not worthy of anything. I am not pretty enough, not smart enough. I am not talented enough, nothing. And then life coaching did not settle for me until after I had spent time with my coach. But I remember signing up my husband to become a
yeah.
life coach because it was like, this makes sense for him. And so I signed up for the 4 day that Brooke had to explain what life coaching was and if this was for you. And my husband did not watch it. I watched it, and I was like, this is what I need to do. Like, and
Yeah.
like, I think at one point she was like, teachers make one of the best life coaches because they already know how to teach. And I'm like,
Mm,
I'm a teacher. I want to do this. So it
yeah.
was just such a different, it feels like a completely different lifetime,
Mm,
because I was just stuck in my circumstances, believing that I had no choice but
yeah.
just to take it in. And I was a victim to my circumstances. And I was just very like, I guess this is just what it is. This is it. This is as good
Yeah.
as it gets. Like, I have achieved the goals, and now I need to quote unquote settle and not dream anymore. I remember being in that place of, well, I'm now in my late 20s, and I have kids, and so I'm not no longer allowed to dream. And I remember that
Mm,
was like the beginning of a completely different life. And I think in that podcast, she said there are decisions in your life that completely shift the trajectory of your life. And she's like, life coaching was it for me. And I'm like, my goodness, life
yeah.
coaching plus my faith has been a completely radical change for my life. And it's just crazy.
Mm.
But yeah,
And do you find that with, and you may have experienced this yourself, but there's a fear that comes along with that choice,
yeah,
because our brain is so conditioned to our familiar, and so we get
Yes.
used to that kind of lower feeling, or oh, this is it, I shouldn't dream. You're like some form of I should be now a grown up and not
Yeah.
have, sensible and realistic. And so to go against that is quite frightening for us to,
Hmm.
especially when our or, you know, cultures or um, society isn't quite on board with it. It's a scary thing for the for the brain and a person to go through. Did you
Yeah.
notice that?
For sure, for sure. Plus, you're like, I think our brains, and I say this to my clients when they're signing for coaching, is like your brain will want to hide back into the cave just
Mm,
because it's a moment in which your brain knows you're about to shift things.
yeah,
And then you add to the fact that you're telling your brain, I will no longer just blindly believe you. Your brain is like, are you
yeah.
kidding me? Like, no, 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 no. We are not going down that rabbit hole. So I think for sure it's like something that it's very normal for us to experience when we're shifting something, especially when it's such a radical shift, for
Mm,
sure. And it takes me back to Nikki, like when we're younger, we don't have this, at least for me, I grew up with mom and dad who were very like, go after your dreams and you offer it up and you go with God and you follow Him and it will be great. And I left my country when I was 16 and I'm like, I'm going to move to the US. How? I have no idea, but it's going to happen. And then I just settled into, like you said, the society's belief that we have to be quote unquote realistic
mm,
versus dreaming big.
yeah,
And if we dream big, we're being unrealistic. And what is the word that I like to use? Oh, irresponsible.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thoughts about that.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? How there's a really good book actually. I don't know if you've heard me say about it before. Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Have you heard me mention that book
I
before?
haven't. My sister was the one that mentioned this one to me.
Okay, so it's a brilliant book, and she talks about that. One of the chapters is the rise of Pollyanna. So I don't think I ever watched the film of Pollyanna, but Pollyanna basically plays this game where she sees the positive in everything. She forces
Hmm.
herself to find the positive in everything. So there's this kind of notion that, oh, you're being a bit of a Pollyanna, as in
Mm.
um that it's unrealistic to look for the positives.
Yeah.
But actually, everything is always happening, the perceived good things and the perceived bad things. That life
Yeah.
is 50-50. And even when someone is dying, someone is being born. Like you can't
Yeah.
have one without the other.
Hmm.
So to me, it's just really fascinating how realistic is actually focusing on the negative,
Yeah.
when science has proven a positive mindset creates a positive result, and it's proven it over and over again. And
Hmm.
how 95, something like, is a statistic, like something like 95% of what we worry about doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So then you go, how then is focusing on the negative being realistic? Surely realistic is a balance of both. It's one and the other. This could
Hmm.
happen and this could also happen.
Yeah.
That's realistic. That's the balance. But people, in my experience, have always been like, no, 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 we're being realistic. And I'm like, no, you're just focusing on the negative.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yes.
there's both.
Yeah. And I think like even for us, like in my community with our faith being such a big part of our life, when we focus on the negativity, we're just legit leaving God out of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're just like, this isn't working. That isn't working. I don't have enough. I'm not enough. We are legit leaving the Holy Spirit that is living within us out of the picture.
Yeah.
And then when we focus on the negative outcome, we leave him out of the picture because it's like, well, all we can see is our humanity, like what our
Mm.
human brains thinks will happen versus seeing what's possible when you let him lead. It's so much more expensive. I can't say that enough. Like you
Expansive.
expand. I'm saying that
Expansive.
wrong. There you
Yeah.
go. It's not expensive.
It's not
But,
expensive.
but yeah,
Actually,
like
completely cheap for free.
yes. No, but like you are expanding while you're
Yeah.
growing. And it's like yes, is it uncomfortable? Yes, but
Mm.
I think that the need of society to keep us down and to stay realistic and to follow the norm has become
Mm.
a reality. And now it's
Yeah.
the opportunity to challenge that versus just staying there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's especially if your communities and your family, if you're the first one doing that change,
Goodness, yes.
it's going to be uncomfortable for you because people don't see it. And then their fears come up and their
Yeah.
worries come up and yeah, so it takes courage to change and to be willing to say to the world, actually, I might do something slightly different.
Yeah. For sure. I think back to when I think I've shared this story in this podcast way too many times, but when we decided to homeschool our kids, my
Mm.
mom and dad were like, "Are you insane? Like, this
Yeah.
is not a good idea." And they warned us and they told us all the things. And I listened and I held space for their fears and their thoughts. And they've caught up since then. We've
Yeah.
we've we've been into the thing for way too long for them not to catch up. I figured they would catch up, but is that radical shifting and doing something completely different than you have seen it done, and even to like go back even more simply, my mom was the very first woman in her family to drive.
Yeah.
Other than that, that was it. And then like for us, it's such a normal thing now, right? Like, what do you mean? Women drive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my aunts, none of my aunts do. My mom is the only one in her family that
Yeah.
drives.
Fascinating, isn't it? It takes
Yeah.
someone, it takes just one person to start shifting that change, doesn't it?
Yeah. I want to know, Nikki, from you, like why is it that you think that life coaching is so impactful? And I know you do because I've heard you talking about it. Maybe I should not have said
Yeah.
that. But like, why is it that you think it's so important, or why do you think it would be important and beneficial for someone else to try it out?
I think on the most basic level, when you start to learn how to manage your mind and experience and manage your emotions, which is our style of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
um, you have a choice. And and I think that is one of the most powerful gifts that we can give ourselves is the power of choice. And the only way you're able to have that choice is when you separate out your thoughts from the circumstance. So if we take the weather, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, everyone in England seems to love talking about the weather.
Same
Um,
here. Go for
yeah,
it.
so it's raining, right? Let's imagine it's tipping down with rain, and everyone's like, "Oh, isn't it miserable? It's raining. I feel terrible. This is awful. I can't do anything." Da, 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 da." Well, at that point, you have no control over the weather. You have no control whether you can change that circumstance of the rain. So if it's the rain that makes you miserable and you can't change the rain, then it feels like you can't change. And now you've just added helplessness
Mm-hmm.
onto it. And I think helplessness is the cause then into depression because
Mm-hmm.
I'm helpless to change. But when you take full responsibility of the fact that okay, my thoughts about the weather make me feel miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I've got something I can change because I can change my thoughts at a time when I can't change the rain.
Yeah.
Now there's a possibility. Now there's a choice. And I don't always then think that that choice should always be positive. There are some situations
Mm-hmm.
and circumstances I choose to believe that I wouldn't be positive about.
Yeah.
If I lose someone, and I love them deeply, and I'm thinking I'm going to miss them. Of course, I want to feel grief. Of
Yeah.
that is such an appropriate emotion to feel when you miss somebody. So just because your thoughts create your feelings, I don't always agree that then it's always about being positive, but
Mm-hmm.
it is about being deliberate for
Mm-hmm.
me. And it is whether it's effective. Like, is how getting angry or frustrated or overwhelmed helping you do what you need to do, whatever that looks
Yeah.
like for you. Um, and if it's not, well, we can change.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just think it's the most powerful gift
Yeah.
of choice. And I think we're probably the only creatures on this planet that have that choice because
Mm-hmm.
animals don't. Animals
Yep.
are instinctual and primitive and um, reactive to their environment. Whereas we get to choose. We
Yeah.
actually get to choose. And I don't think many people know that.
Yeah. 100%. And for me, it's like we have such a beautiful authority to realize that I always say, like, God made us in his image and likeness for a reason. We have authority in what we are believing
Yeah,
about our circumstances and about ourselves and about the people that are around us. And one of the
yeah,
things I wanted to add to that of like we have a choice on the thoughts. And I love that you mentioned that we do not always need to be happy and just positive, right? Like we are allowed to feel all the emotions. But I think one of the biggest gifts to add to that fact of we have a choice is that we are also it's so okay to embrace all of our emotions
mm,
versus just shutting them or shoving them into a corner and pretending they are not there, because a lot of the times it's something I explain to my children so much with fears, because fears are I don't like fears. I'm like, fear, go away. But fear is truly something that you have to take with you, learn to love, and learn not to let it stop you
yeah,
necessarily. If you are by a cliff and you have fear, pause, okay?
yeah.
Stop.
It's appropriate. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But
You
this
want to
is
listen to
why,
that?
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
why it's so important to realize that all the feelings are allowed. Like there is no
yeah,
shame in the feelings. I think it's when we shame the feelings that things get out of control and then we're overwhelmed and then we're stressed and we just can't feel anything. We don't learn how to feel anything. And a lot of that is because we have been raised in a culture that is like, keep it together. You should be
yeah,
able to figure it out on your own.
yeah,
It's fine. Be
yeah.
happy. That's like, no, no, that's not the full spectrum of our
Mm,
emotions for a reason. And I think emotions have such a powerful, what is it called? Such a power for us to learn what it is God is trying to tell us and what we need to process in that specific moment versus
yeah,
just getting ourselves moved on faster or not
yeah,
healing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, we've been given that full range of emotions for a reason. Like if you
Mhm.
didn't know hate and fear, you wouldn't know peace and love.
Right.
So for us to recognize the positives, there has to be the opposite. Otherwise, how would you know? How would
Yeah.
you know that you were feeling good if you had nothing to compare it to?
Yeah.
You wouldn't. And even how we label things as good or bad, it is just a sensation in your body that we then
Mhm.
decide is this comfortable or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is fascinating how because our cultures generally be like, here in the UK, it's like shoulders back, head up, must crack on, must I like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine, I'm fine, everything's fine, I'm fine. And
Yeah.
you're like, but you're not, and that's
Right.
okay, you know?
Yes.
And so it's so much more effective to actually fully experience your emotions, not shame them like you just said,
Yeah.
and then you can move through so much easier.
Yeah. I had long time ago, I had someone tell me that my girls cried too much and it made them uncomfortable, which is their choice, right? It's like, okay, that's your problem. But like what I have told my husband throughout my years with my two girls, because I do have two girls and they are very highly emotional, is that I want to be there for their emotions because at one point or another, they won't be able to hide them anymore. And they're
Yes.
gonna come pouring everywhere. And I want to
Yeah.
be able to help them and like
Yeah.
to let them know that it's okay to feel what they're feeling
Mm.
and still know that they have a choice. Like
Yeah.
that's why I think it's so brilliant, because it's like my kids are gonna grow up knowing about life coaching.
Yeah.
And it just makes me so
Yeah.
happy. My mom was an amazing mother, is an amazing mother. Mom, you're an amazing mother. And she was very good at being there for our emotions. And she did it
Yeah.
like without knowing any of this.
Yeah.
But she was like, "You're feeling what? Let's talk about it." And it created so much space for me. And
Yeah.
I was the same way. I still am. Like, I have big emotions and I cry a lot, right? And that's what I tell my clients. I've had people come to me. I don't know if this happens to you, that they're like, "I'm so sorry. I just, I
Oh, I'm
just
gonna
like,
cry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna cry. I'm like,
yeah,
and that's
cry
okay.
out."
Yeah, bring it in. Bring it.
Yes.
Let's have
This
it.
is
Yeah,
what this
that's
is
it.
for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like they're like, "I'm sorry. Like I know I should have this together. Like aren't I like old enough to have this together?" And I'm like, "No, you are not. You
Yeah.
are not. This is we all need a coach.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
okay to have these emotions.
Mm.
Let them out and process them."
Yeah.
Emotions are so
Yeah.
much more fun when we process them.
Yeah, yeah, they're harmless. They lose their control over us. But I've got two boys. I've got a 13 and 14-year-old boys. And um traditionally boys are brought up that, you know, don't cry, it's a sign of weak, man up, all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I may have I may have said that to them before I knew about life coaching. Um, I don't think I did, but it may have come out because that's what society do with boys. But definitely since I knew one that your thoughts created your feelings and how to actually process an emotion, now it's like, yes, of course you're crying
Yeah.
because look at the thoughts you're having and that's okay. Cry it out, let it
Hmm.
go. Of course you're frustrated. You don't want to get off your game. You're loving it. I get it. Be
Hmm.
frustrated for a minute and then we'll talk about it. Or, yes, of course you're feeling anxious because you're doing something new and your brain literally thinks this is going to kill you. It doesn't understand that it's not.
Yeah.
That's okay. We don't have to avoid that emotion. And I just think um, how I'm quite fascinated to see how they are impacted by hearing
Yeah.
this is how you process an emotion. Nothing has gone wrong when you have them,
Hmm.
and we can just experience it and it disappears and off we go again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such an incredible. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they're already amazing young men. I can't wait to see how.
Yeah.
I will be very disappointed if they do become drug dealers, but
Weren't we all?
but I just think hearing that from such a young age, they're not being conditioned that anxiety is a sign to hold back. Like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Anxiety and nervousness is a sign that we're growing and moving forward. Fear, that's totally normal. Of course it is. Sadness, absolutely. It's none of that is a problem.
Yeah. None of it is a problem. And I think it's like we can create so much more healthier relationships when we first allow ourselves to feel,
Yeah.
but also have the awareness of what it is we are feeling versus blaming the other person. Like, I
Yeah.
always think of like my marriage prior to life coaching with my marriage right now is completely
Yeah.
different relationship
Yeah.
because for the craziest long time, anytime Jeremy had a hard time, I would make it mean something about me.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I'm
Yeah.
failing. All the thoughts. None of them were his thoughts. They were my thoughts.
Yeah.
And it created such a different relationship in which I was just so emotionally charged
Mm.
that we just argued more often than I wanted to. And now
Yeah.
it's like, okay, he's feeling a certain way. This is the thought. Granted, I'm a coach. And so I had a friend tell me, how does your husband handle being married to you? I'm like, what do you mean? And then he's like, I just can't imagine because every time I feel like you're looking at me, I feel like you're analyzing my brain. I'm like, yeah, I don't have that power. I'm not that powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with my husband, it's just become this detach in a sense where you're allowed that person that you love to feel the emotions, not make it mean anything about you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be present for them. That has been
Yeah.
such a gift. Can't even
Yeah.
imagine like express it. And that's exactly like how it shifted. And for me, it's like my kids. My
Yeah.
relationship with my girls is different. My relationship with my sister, my husband, I also my boyfriend. But yeah, it's so
Yeah.
different when you allow yourself to feel and let them
Yeah.
feel.
And I think as well to complement that, it's taking that step back to your thoughts is if you realize you can change your thoughts about yourself, and I think this is something that I just get stronger and stronger at, and it just feels so incredible, is that learning how to be my best friend, learning how
Hmm.
to be kind to myself, learning how, like I find myself now saying, "Oh, well done, Nikki. That was a really good job." And I'm like,
Yeah,
where the hell did that come from?
no
Never in
kidding.
like 5 years ago would have I said that to myself.
Yeah,
But because I've started to build my relationship with me and the quality of my relationship with myself, I don't have a dependency then on my
yeah,
children to behave a certain way because their behavior shows nothing about me.
yeah,
Like I can let my husband feel frightened or nervous or worried or whatever he's going through and it
yeah.
doesn't mean anything about me. So I when you have when you are only ever dependent on yourself, you get to show up in such a truer,
Yeah.
for me, so much more loving
Mm-hmm.
way versus trying to control and change things that you have no control over,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
and then being frustrated and resentful. And that you never show up as your best self from that
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, it's not authentic at all. Like it's just us trying to grab and fix and control situations. One of the things that I always share is the idea that when we are not kind with ourselves, we are literally not being kind to God. Like because
Mm.
he, again, he lives within us, right? And so it's like telling, well, God, you messed this up about me.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
this one wrong.
yeah,
And it's like, I don't think that, like, one of the things that my clients come to me with is like those dreams that have been placed in their hearts. They're like, well, I'm not going to go after that because I'm not good enough, which we're basically saying that the Holy Spirit within you is not good enough to carry you through. That
yeah,
to me is just so scary to think. I'm like, no,
yeah,
no, no. We are not
yeah.
going to just sit and beat ourselves up because in doing
Mm.
so, we are beating up the creation that God fully created within you. Like you
Yeah,
are his and he is
yeah.
in you. And so to me, it's like, let's not do that anymore and really learn to have a better relationship with ourselves. And it was also explained that too, like that the core of our relationships is us with God in the middle. And if we don't have a healthy relationship between us,
Mm.
the rest of our relationships are affected.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just how it is.
Mm.
Um, but and I'm so glad that you touched on that because I think that's also one of the biggest parts of life coaching is learning to not just accept yourself, but really learning how to love who you are
Yeah.
and whom God is calling you to be, whom He's created you to be from the very
Mm.
beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just
And what I also love about life coaching along that similar line is how up until this point in your life, you that part of your brain has been conditioned by society, by experiences, by caregivers, by circumstances and situations that we've had no control over that have happened to us. So that love has always been in us, but how we have been or what we've experienced up until this point was unconscious and out of our control.
Mhm.
And I think if there are circumstances and events that people haven't dealt with, then that might be more appropriate for counseling or therapy.
Mhm.
But what I love about life coaching is like we're drawing a line in the sand and we're going, right, from this point and for the rest of my life, regardless of what's happened in this up until this point, who do I want to be moving forward?
Yeah,
How do I want to show up? What stories do I want to tell? What do I want to create? Who do I want to be? What do I want to achieve in this next part of my life? So it's life coaching for me gives you that kind of choice about releasing the past
yeah.
and focusing on the future and who you want to be now going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to add to that too is the middle piece where you are right now. You become
Yeah,
so much more at ease and at peace
yeah,
that this is where you need to be. And
yeah,
that from here on out, you get to co-create the life that God is calling you to create. And I love that. I love that imagery too of like drawing the land in the sand, this line in the sand and trusting that what is in our past is in our past. There's nothing like we need to forgive ourselves for that kind of thing and also learn to move forward on purpose. I think
mm,
that's a very big part. And I had a podcast talking about the difference between life coaching and therapy because therapy is a lot more for like if you have a trauma, that's what therapy is more for. Whereas life coaching is not for that, but it is helping you to be more at ease, more at peace in your life now,
yeah, yeah,
co-creating the life that you really want versus
yeah.
continue to create unknowing unknowingly of the
Yeah,
authority that you have.
yeah.
I love that.
So I'm curious, what do you think learning, like becoming a life coach and taking up coaching, what has been the biggest impact for you?
Ooh, biggest impact. I think the biggest impact is that life coaching actually helped me to grow closer to God. It was the thing that helped me to grow more in connection with Him. Like I said, I've been Catholic my whole life, but I think it was when I stopped buffering my life away, then I really had that openness of needing something way more important than food or social media or just not feeling my emotions. That for sure has been life changing. But I think
Mhm.
it also for me, life coaching opened me to dream again. I'm not gonna cry. Because I was a very big dreamer in my early life, and then I just stopped and
Yeah.
just settled for what seemed normal. And I think life coaching for me has allowed me to dream again and to go after bigger things that God is very on purpose putting in my heart versus hiding. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
I
for
love
me.
that.
What about you?
Um, I think it is having the magic of possibility
Yeah.
that I literally could create whatever I wanted.
Mm,
Now, don't get me wrong, there's a fear that comes along with that.
yeah.
Um, but isn't it amazing to think like I have a choice. I
Yeah.
I get to decide
Yeah. Yeah.
on everything.
Yeah, and like when you're being like, again, I go back to like when there's a seed in your heart to do something, even when it seems impossible, there's a reason why.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. Me
That's
too.
so cool.
And I just love for me, that unconditional love and abundance that just is available to all of us if we open ourselves up to receiving it just feels so good.
Yeah, I love it. And that's exactly what it is. It's like we just need to open up to receiving his provision, and it makes me happy. I'm just, Nikki, I can talk to you forever and ever.
I know we
Um,
have a time frame.
but we have a time frame. But I just want to thank you so much for coming. And I want you to share where listeners can find you, share all of it.
Yeah, so I am very active on Instagram, LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, I'll send you my links so we can connect. I have a YouTube channel and I also have a podcast called the Working Mums Podcast with Nicky Bevan. So if you kind of like hearing my voice, come and have a listen.
I love your voice. Your accent is my favorite thing. It makes me happy. You are like the representation of joy. Every time I see you, anything that you post, I'm always
Oh,
just like, yep, makes sense that you would be joyful because you really are. Like such a
thank
beautiful
you.
picture of joy. I love it.
Thank you.
I will post all the links in the description. So go check her out. She's amazing. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
for having me. I loved it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you are ready to dive deeper into creating an aligned life with God at the center of it all, I want to invite you to a one-on-one consultation call with me. This is your chance to explore what is possible for you and to take the next step towards living with more clarity, peace, and joy. Sign up today. The link is in the description. I also want to invite you to leave a review if you have been enjoying these episodes, and make sure to share it with a friend. That way God can reach more and more amazing Catholic women. All right, until next time, God bless.